I mean Hindi with this mobile, this from the mobile class, taking the class. Okay, somehow means I'll just try to this have this class. So last time we have skipped the pathology of this esophagus one part. I mean that is one of the very important. I mean that is about the chalk, right? So regarding this chalk, this kind of this pathological condition, chalk is nothing but it is one kind of obstruction in the esophageal passage. So that's why it is also known as esophageal obstruction. So when there is any obstruction in the passage of this esophagus, maybe due to any kind of these foreign particles, or means maybe from the uh, or maybe means pressure given from adjoining areas nearby your esophagus. Okay, so that may lead to obstruction of this esophagus. So that is known as shock. Yes, I'm showing here one picture of hello. Any problem?
Wait.
Hello. Do you have any
Sir,
problem? No
sir,
problem, na?
some are waiting.
Oh, just minute. I am not so handy with this, na. That's why. Okay, okay. Just so there are some, I mean, these materials like these beets, turnips, carrots, or bone material. I mean, this as no as in case of this dog, swallowing of the bone as a, I mean, whole, like sometimes, or sometimes some pressures given by abscesses or tumors at the neck area, just nearby your esophagus. Means just outside the esophagus, of course. I mean, it is giving displeasure towards the esophageal wall, or I mean, as in case of these horses, the one of the most common occurrence of this obstruction is due to the greedily eaten dry grains or hay. Means they are very greedy in nature for taking the feed and all. So that may also block the esophageal passage. Or as in case of this cattle, maybe solid objects, for example, apples, beets, potatoes, turnips, corn stalks, or the ears of corn. Like so, this may also obstruct the esophageal passage. So, as I am showing here some pictures, so this kind of these materials, I mean, which may remain this block there inside the esophageal passage, leading to obstruction. So that is about this chalk. And regarding the clinical these manifestations, I mean, what kind of this clinical signs and symptoms the animal may have when they are having this problem of this choking. So, as in case of these horses, there may be overflow of the esophageal food and a regurgitation of that food through the nostrils. Okay, this is one of the most common and this classical clinical sign symptom of the animal means the food material, and the animal may have the problem of regurgitation of the food material through the nostrils. Means the food may come out of the nostril because it cannot get entry into the stomach, right? And nasal discharges of saliva or food material which usually spill from the pharynx into the airway. I mean, sometimes means it may split into the this airway towards the, I mean, your lungs, trachea, and all, right? And which may have the problem of this coughing because this food material, liquid, or like I mean, the saliva and all these things. So this may get into the this trachea because the esophagus is, I mean, this block. So it may go towards the this larynx, I mean, then towards the trachea. So it may lead to, I mean, some ear problems and this airway problems leading to coughing and all. And the animal may be very much anxious, or they may stress or arch its back or the neck. That means the animal may extend its head, and the neck may be having some this arch back bending type. Okay, and it may still attempt to continue either to eat or drink. This is the nature of the horse. Means even having this problem of this, this choking, even the animal doesn't, this stop to, have this attempt to take the, this feed or even, this drinking and all. Then, as in case of this cattle, acute or complete esophageal obstruction is one of the most common and emergency cases because it prohibits the erection of the ruminal gases and the free gas blood may develop. As last time we have discussed about the blood, there means one of the cause of this free gas blood was shocking. So, as in case of this ruminants particularly, the normal procedure of this erection and this of the regurgitation and the erection of these gases from the rumen and reticulum through the nostril. So that may be blocked because of this obstruction at the esophageal passage. So that may lead to accumulation of more and more free gases inside the rumen and reticulum. So that's why means the animal may have the problem of this free gas blood. So that is one of the very common means as in case of these ruminants like this cattle. So this may in turn may result in asphyxia as the expanding rumen may give pressure on the diaphragm and reduce return of blood to the heart. So asphyxia is nothing but when the heart is having this problem, due to the pressure given by the expanded rumen or reticulum to the diaphragm and giving pressure towards the heart and the lungs. Okay, so this may reduce the return of the blood to the heart. So the animal will face the problem of this supplying oxygen and this require oxygen to the different parts of the body. So this is known as asphyxia. So this is another problem, and this is one kind of this very common emergency, and even the animal may die in this stage. And the cow may be bloated or in distress, or it may remain recumbent, or sometimes there may be protrusion of the tongue, there may be extension of the head, and there may be grinding of the teeth with excess salivation. Particularly means these are in case of, this, cattle. Then when we are talking about the changes, means if you have a problem of this choking, so what kind of this growth changes you may come across in that affected animal? So most commonly, as we have already just now we have discussed, that is blood or tympani. This is one of the most common finding. Then there may be gangrene or septicemia as well as even toxemia because the part of the esophagus where which is blocked, so they may get stuck by this food material and it may injure the tissue on this esophageal mucosa leading to necrosis, and it may be invaded by some saprophytic organisms and all. So after all, it means it will lead to gangrene formation. And after that, there may be formation of what to say, this presence of there may be some organisms they may get into the circulation leading to septicemia, or there may be production of some toxins maybe from that food material and all. On that toxin may also get into the circulation leading to toxemia. Or the next, this gross changes, which commonly means you may come across, is that whenever there used to be having, this stocking or this blockage of the esophageal passage just above that level, at that point of this esophagus, there will be a formation of sac-like dilatation of the esophagus. So that is commonly known as esophageal diverticulum. There may be sidewise in the wall of the esophagus, maybe leading to a formation of sac-like structure. So that is known as esophageal diverticulum. Or there may be perforation due to the sharp bone ends. Like for example, if the material is of a bone material having sharp these ends, so it may injure the this esophageal wall leading to perforation. Okay, then microscopic it is not that much important of course, but when you make the section of that part of the esophagus, so one of the most common this finding microscopically is gangrene formation or necrotic changes at the point of this obstruction, means the esophageal wall will show necrotic changes and even gangrene formation may be there, and there may be congestion as well as hemorrhagic changes in that perforated cases. Means in those severe cases of this perforation, injury due to sharp bone ends and all. So in those cases, means hemorrhages may be there, or like some of the vessels may be congested, right? Then coming to diagnosis, so far the diagnosis is concerned, so the clinical signs are very much suggestive. That means those what to say, this issue, according to the different species of the animal, little bit differences what we have learned, like this is in case of this horses, this regurgitation of food material coming out through the nostrils, salivation, and then in case of this cattle, this asphyxia, in severe cases, or like, bloating and all. So these kind of these symptoms are very much suggestive. Or from that, you may think that, there may be, some choking of that this animal in the esophageal passage. The objects which is lost in the cervical esophageal part, which may be located via the palpation. If you go for palpation, so you can feel that, or there is a, this some material inside the esophageal passage from externally. This external means palpation. Then by endoscopic evaluation and inability to pass a stomach or this nasogastric tube, so far in case of this horses as well as cattle, so that may also, this very much useful for confirmation of this choking, for a diagnosis. That means you can go for endoscopic, this evaluation, or if you use stomach or nasogastric tube by inserting into the esophagus. So there you can not, this insert the and that tube into the stomach, because it will block there in the esophageal passage where there is a choking. So that is giving that, or there is something blocking or choking there in the esophageal passage. Then, and every case of such kind of this choking should be very much carefully evaluated independently, because in many of the cases, in such type of these chockings, the complications of this, this shocking condition. So, like for example, aspiration pneumonia, which may prohibit or limit the effectiveness of treatment. So that is, this aspiration pneumonia, I think last time, as in case of your, the inflammation, this pneumonia means is the nothing but this inflammation of the lungs. But one kind of this pneumonia, one kind of this inflammation of the lungs is aspiration pneumonia. So in such cases, this inflammation of the lungs is mainly caused by the, liquid or some food materials, particularly liquid portions like milk and all these things, like our medicines, like liquid medicines, when you are feeding to the animals and all. So due to this choking of the esophagus, so it may get into the larynx towards the trachea instead of going into the esophagus, because it is blocked. So it may get into the lungs, leading to pneumonia. So that kind of this pneumonia is known as aspiration pneumonia, right? So this is nothing but caused by some foreign materials or particles going into the lungs. Particularly means in normal and this physiology is only the air should get into the lungs. But in this case, food material like this liquid portion and all the all medicines, like liquid medicines and all getting into the lungs, leading to pneumonia. So this kind of this pneumonia is known as aspiration pneumonia. So this is one of the very common complications of this esophageal, this shocking, what we call, this obstruction, what we call shocking. And in such cases, the thoracic radiography, if you go for X-ray, or then some hematological examination, as well as even biochemical serum analysis are also useful. But it is not that much, useful as compared to the other, what we have is mentioned above. Okay, means that means also, this useful and it can be used. Then there are so many complications of the esophageal obstruction, maybe in both cases of the horses and cattle. means inhalation pneumonia, what we have just discussed about the aspiration pneumonia, and the resultant fumigating septic pleural pneumonia, which are some, the common, just esophageal obstruction and these complications. And there may be long time obstruction, which may be associated with the pressure necrosis of the esophageal mucosa due to prolonged contact with the foreign body. Means it may, it is, if it is lost in that very particular this esophagus, then it may cause some, obstruction and pressure necrosis of that very particular esophageal mucosa. So that is also one of them. And 360-degree mucosal slough may also result in the development of the post-obstruction esophageal stricture. That means if that obstruction is going on for a prolonged period and all these things, later on, the whole and this parts of the esophagus where the blocking is there, means all degree, means all parts of the esophageal wall. So maybe this developing some, this sloughing, or some, this severe ulcerative lesion slough may be there, means it may slough out the mucosal surface of that. And there may be intrathoracic esophageal rupture. This is a very, this deathful condition. It may be leading to death of the affected animal. Then cervical esophageal rupture may also be, means so far the cervical esophagus rupture, if rupture is there in the cervical part of the esophagus, which can be managed, means as in case of the forces, by local drainage or sometimes wound hygienic condition hygiene and nasogastric feeding. Okay, then if secondary healing doesn't occur, in that case, dealing this type of this surgical repair may be very much effective so far. This for management of that this affected animals. Then when the large animals 12 food materials and become obstructed, and the etiology may be of some on this esophageal spasm. In such cases, if the animal's respiratory system is healthy, means if it is normal, some conservative management means can be practiced or can be, this conducted in most of the cases before any attempt to irrigate by using siphon or using a program to loosen the object. Means according to the condition of the obstruction. So there may be different kind of this managemental practices to relieve such kind of this, this shocking, right? So now, this is about the shock. Means last time we have skipped. After that, means we started about the, this blood and all. So let me continue after that. Uh, just a minute. There's some problem here also. Mobile is also taking too much time. So now let me continue. Means last time we have discussed about the very common and a very much important, this pathological condition of the ruminants, what we call dot or tympani. Okay. So after that, there are some more conditions. In these ruminants, particularly, the this four compartments of the these ruminants. So in such cases, one of the very common, of course, means after this I will go to the, this a very important pathological condition, that is traumatic reticulopericarditis. Okay, and here means a brief means, let me give you, means when what happened is that some foreign particles, okay, like sub needles, wires, and all these things, if it is mixed up or accidentally swallowed by the animal along with the feed material, so it may go into the rumen, then passing on the reticulum, and that sharp object may pierce through the, I mean, the anatomy of the reticular wall. Reticulum wall used to have honeycomb like this structure, right? So this kind of this honeycomb like this structure of the reticulum. So that's why this kind of these sharp objects like nails and all these things, it may not pass into the your, I mean, this omesum, amomasum, and all. So it may stuck there in the reticulum. So that's why these sharp objects may pierce through or may perforate the reticular wall, the wall of the reticulum, which is most commonly coming into contact or in adjacent to the diaphragm, or sometimes down there in the towards the abdomen, means where there's I mean this peritoneum, the thin membrane layering and this or covering all the this bigger organ of the stomach, what we call peritoneum. So these two parts, that is one is diaphragm in and the front side, and the down there in the ventral portion, you may have the covering what we call peritoneum. Okay, so after piercing through the wall of this reticulum, it may pierce or it may injure the reticular of this diaphragm in front side or anterior part, or the down there in the abdominal this cavity side, this ventral portion. There means you may, I mean, have injury to the peritoneum, leading to inflammation of those these structures. So this may, I mean, pierce through the after piercing through or the injuring the diaphragm. So it may go into the thorax, means some portion of this nail or the, I mean, this sharp object. It may have, I mean, this contact with the heart, particularly means in adjacent to this you will have the heart in the thoracic cavity. So the outer covering of the heart, what we call pericardium, so that used to be injured by this sharp object, leading to inflammation of this pericardium, what we call pericarditis. So it is nothing but due to the traumatic injury of that sharp object going through the reticular wall, through the this diaphragm. So that's why that condition is known as traumatic reticulopericarditis when it is injuring the pericardium of the heart. Or there may be different kind, that is traumatic reticuloperitonitis. In that case, if the sharp object is passing through the ventral portion of the reticular wall, so it may injure the peritoneum, not the diaphragm and the heart, right? So in that case, it may lead to inflammation of the peritoneum, what we call peritonitis. So that's why that is known as traumatic reticuloperitonitis, not pericarditis. So in short, both are known as TRP. That means TRP may be of two kinds. That is, one is traumatic reticulopericarditis, another is traumatic reticuloperitonitis, right? Then when the four compartments of these ruminants, the stomach, that is rumen, reticulum, omesum, and abomasum. So if individually, separately, if they are showing this inflammation, that means if the rumen is inflamed, rumenitis, if the reticulum is inflamed, reticulitis, if the omesum is inflamed, this omesitis, and if the abomasum is inflamed, abomasitis. So like this, different etiological agents, or means more similarly, I mean this similar type of this, and individually or different compartments of this stomach, I mean ruminant animals may be infected and may cause inflammatory condition, right? So different names may have. So now the most important pathological condition so far your examination is also concerned. Just now I have mentioned about the TRP, that means traumatic reticulopericarditis, and the traumatic reticuloperitonitis. In short, TRP, traumatic reticuloperitonitis one is, another is traumatic reticulopericarditis. Okay, and this is mainly caused by some sharp objects like nails and all some hardware materials. So that's why it is known as hardware disease, and affecting the, the reticulum, of course. But sometimes, as you know, in some other this simple stomach animal also it may be. So in that case, particularly, gastritis is the inflammation of the stomach. Particularly, we should think about we should what to say. It should be of the simple stomach animal because ruminants have different compartments having different names: rumen, reticulum, omasum, and abomasum, and the different inflammatory conditions also, right? But gastritis as a whole is the inflammation of the stomach, and it should indicate, particularly in case of the simple stomach animals. So this very particular pathological condition, traumatic reticuloperitonitis or traumatic reticulopericarditis, as I have already explained, that means this is mainly due to the some what to say, these sharp objects like nails, wires, and fencing materials and all these things getting into the this rumen. Through the along with the pit material accidentally, not accident, this intention. Okay, or like sometimes of course some people intentionally mixing just type of these things along with the feed materials of the animal and fed to the animal. It may happen, but accidentally the animal used to ingest these things along with the feed materials and all. And after going into the this rumen, then by the ruminal contraction movement and all, it will pass on to the reticulum, where you will have that honeycomb like this structure of the reticular mucosa, and that will leading to stuck on and lodge, and this lodging of this food material, what sharp objects materials, it cannot pass on to the organism. Okay, so after that it will cause injury to the this reticular wall, and passing through this diaphragm, it may injure the heart, leading to pericarditis, or down there in the ventral portion of the reticulum, it may I mean go into the this what passing through the reticular wall of the ventral portion and injuring the peritoneum, leading to peritonitis. So these conditions are known as traumatic reticulopericarditis when it injures the heart, and traumatic reticuloperitonitis when it affects or injures the peritoneum, leading to severe inflammatory condition. And both the cases, so it may be very much fatal, means the animal may die, particularly in case of this traumatic reticulopericarditis due to heart failure, due to the injury, to the direct heart and this injury. So heart failure will begin and animal will die. Okay. So in case of this peritonitis, also due to infection and all these things, when it is piercing through the this peritoneum and all these things. So from the abdominal portion, the our these organisms coming along with the food materials and all, it may be spread out through the body. Then means it may lead to a severe condition of this septicemia and all these things. The animal may die. So there are so many these materials as it is listed down here, like sharp objects, grains of silage, and other sharp objects, fencing materials, and many other things. Means when the animal is taking along with the feed material these sharp objects going into the rumen, passing on towards the reticulum, so leading to such kind of this condition, what we call traumatic reticulopericarditis and traumatic reticuloperitonitis. Two different way means it may injure. So I'm just showing one photograph here. This is the, this you just see the compartments of in the abdominal cavity, then the diaphragm giving partition of the abdominal cavity and the, this thoracic cavity, and in the thoracic cavity, heart is in contact with the diaphragm. So when such type of the sharp objects passing through this reticular wall, then after passing and this injuring the diaphragm, it can easily injure the pericardium of the heart, leading to pericarditis. Then down in the ventral portion, in that case, it may injure the peritoneum, leading to peritonitis. So in that case, it will be traumatic reticuloperitonitis. Okay. So these are, the pictures showing that kind of this, what is it, this traumatic reticuloperitonitis as well as traumatic this reticulopericarditis. Then etiology, as I have already mentioned, please go through it because the sub objects of many different kinds. which is ingested along with the feed materials. So that is the common this idea, but there are so many in this write up here. So just go through it. It is not difficult. Okay. Then now I'm just showing some pictures here. Just see. The first one is the sharp object like a nail like structure lodged in the wall of the reticulum, piercing through the wall. Then it is coming out of this and passing through the next photograph, two photographs, means the pericardium, the heart, passing through the heart wall. Okay. Then the third photograph shows the and third and fourth. These are the very this difficult what to say this severe condition of the this fibrous type of this pericarditis because of the inflammatory reaction of the pericardium. So fibrin materials may be accumulated on the pericardial sac of the heart. So that's why fibrinous material may be covering on the surface of the heart. So that is known as fibrinous pericarditis. It's one kind of this inflammation of the pericardium. So this is one of the most common or direct injury. Passing through and bleeding. This you may lose. This sudden. What to say? This loss of this blood. So it may lead to heart failure and all right because of this severe trauma of the heart and this wall passing through hole and this wall, or only the pericardium leading to such kind of this fibrinous pericarditis. Then the last one is as in case of the ventral portion of the reticulum leading to injury to the peritoneum. In such cases, once the peritoneum is infected, leading to peritonitis. So red dots are nothing but the organisms spreading out of, after leading to inflammation of this peritoneum. So organisms will be coming out into the abdominal hole, abdominal cavity, spreading out and injuring many other, this organs. So that's why in both the cases, the animal may die because of this severe injury of the heart, one case, and another is due to this septicemia due to this peritonitis, severe peritonitis. So now coming to clinical signs and symptoms, that is the clinical findings of this traumatic reticuloperitonitis as well as traumatic reticulopericarditis. The initial attack means the first and initially when the animal is having what is this problem of this traumatic reticulopericarditis or this peritonitis. So there may be sudden onset of ruminal reticular atony and a sharp fall in milk production. If it is a milking animal, there will be a sharp reduction in the milk production. The quantity will be suddenly reduced. And another is the atony means the movement, this rumen and reticular, this wall, this muscular movement. It will be atony means it will not have that movement because of the what is the paralysis condition of the wall due to injury and all these things, right? And there may be decreased output of the feces, and the rectal temperature may be mild, this increase may be there, and the heart rate whereas may be normal or there may be slight increase of the heart rate, but the respiratory is usually shallow and rapid. Okay, then in the initial cases when the as this ruminant like this cow showing this kind of this and this disease condition or traumatic reticulopericarditis, they may show an arch back condition, means the bending up of the back portion of the animal, and it may have an anxious expression, very much anxious look like appearance, and they may reluctant to move, means they may not like to move, means very much reluctant because of the pain. Okay, they may just have reluctance to move and very much feeling uneasiness and very careful gait when they are standing. Their posture will be very careful because of the injury to the heart particularly, or sometimes maybe the peritoneum also. So the animal movement, gesture and the posture and all this thing, it will be very much careful and they may be looking very much anxious. Okay, and they may not like to move suddenly. And if you force them for sudden movement as well as the defecating, urinating, it may lie down, it may get up, means sometimes it may lie down or it may get up, or stepping over barriers may be accompanied by groaning. That means when the animal are forced to move, means by forceful this, I mean instruction, or this forcefully your this movement, giving movement of the animal, like, so in such cases the animal may groan, means little bit, I mean what to say, this producing sound of pain and all these things, and it may lie down, it may get up, and it may not like to move, and even if it is forced, so they may be having and this showing some painness by a typical sound, what we call this groaning. Okay, then a grunt may be elicited by this applying pressure to the xiphoid cartilage, I mean portion, and elevating this area firmly, and then pinching readers, which causes extension of the thorax on the lower abdomen. So far, I mean, when you want to confirm, or I mean that, so if you, I mean, give some this pressure towards the xiphoid cartilage portion of the, and this thorax on the means, and this in adjacent to and this abdominal cavity, I mean this, in that portion xiphoid cartilage, means if you give some pressure, or if you elevate little bit, I mean this area very firmly. Okay, so in such cases, I mean there may be extension of the thoracic wall, maybe little bit extension, and the lower portion of the abdomen. Or this is another sign or this indication. Then the grunts may be detected, means such kind of this sound producing by the animal when they are having very much pain due to the injury of the and this heart and all these things. So it can be detected, you can feel it out, you can see it by pressing a stethoscope over the trachea, or by applying some little bit pressure or pinching the withers at the end of an inspiration when the animal is inspiring, taking in the air. Okay, such things, I mean, are pressing, I mean, just pressure, or I mean, if you are using an stethoscope, then you can feel that, or the animal is having this little bit painful sound and producing this crunching sound. Okay, and there may be tremor of the triceps and abduction of the elbow, means which also, I mean, you can just view that, means tremoring and this trembling, that is the tricep muscle and the abduction of the elbow portion of the animal. And if it is very chronic, I mean long-standing cases, in such cases, the feed intake and the fecal output are very much reduced, and as well as the milk production. Okay, and the signs of this cranial abdominal pain may be very less apparent, means it cannot be very much prominent, but the rectal temperature usually returns to normal when acute inflammatory and this reaction subsides, peritoneal contamination is wall up. Means when it is what to say, I mean this recovering or subsiding, then inflammatory reaction and the injury is little bit, and in such cases, I mean the rectal temperature, if you this measure the temperature from the rectum and all, so it may come down to the normal. Okay, and some cattle may develop chronic dysvagal indigestion, possibly which may be due to adhesions that form after foreign body perforation, particularly those on the ventromedial reticulum. Means when the animal is having some perforation injury, severe injury perforating the reticular wall and all, particularly the ventral, little bit middle portion of the ventral portion of the reticulum. In such cases, there may be adhesion of this reticular wall and all. Okay, so in such cases, what happens is that the animal may have a problem of chronic vagal indigestion, means it may not this digest the food material properly. Okay, then cows with pleuritis or pericarditis, that means two different things. I mean, when it injures, I mean, the pericardium of the heart, that is the outer covering of the heart with some fibrinous material. So it is in adjacent to this, and I mean, this along with this heart in the thoracic cavity, the other very important organ, lungs, is there, and the outer covering of the lungs is known as pleura, right? So when the pericarditis is there due to the injury of this pericardium by the sharp object, So the inflammatory reaction, it may extend towards the pleura of the lungs, leading to pleuritis. So this is very much important. Okay, and in such cases, the animal may have that. I mean, this heartbeat, this red, I mean, this beat rate, heartbeat rate. I mean, this may be increased. This is tachycardic. I mean, tachycardia, or as well as there may be rise of this body temperature, what we call pyrexia or pyrexic condition. Okay, and this kind of this inflammation of the outer covering of the lungs, what we call pleuritis, it may be, this very fast, and it may lead to what to say, the respiratory problem, like very fast and shallow respiratory condition, and there may be muffled lung sounds, some, this dull and the muffled lung sounds, and possibly pleuritic friction drops when there is a typical sound of the rubbing with the friction rubbing with the this pleura with the other parts of the thorax. So they may producing some typical sound. Okay, that pleuritic friction rub. Okay, so this kind of this condition also maybe when there is pleuritis. Then thoracentesis may yield several liters of fluid means inside the thoracic cavity. Okay, particularly means when there is a pleuritis, pericarditis, and all this thing. Accumulation of some watery fluid may be there in the thoracic. Particularly means it can also be termed as hydrothorax. Okay, and a traumatic reticulopericarditis may be characterized or may be manifested by muffled heart sounds, possibly with pericardial friction drops, and occasionally by gas and fluid expulsion sound on auscultation. If you use a stethoscope for auscultation and all, so you may find some sound of the very typical sound due to the pericardial friction drops and all. Okay, when the heart is having such kind of this traumatic injuries, what we call this traumatic reticulopericarditis and all. And this very particular sound can be described as a washing machine murmuring sound. You know, when you on the on this washing machine, some and this murmuring sound used to be there, right? So that type of this typical sound can be heard by auscultation. And next sign, is that some other more signs like the jugular vein distension may be there with a very much pronounced jugular pulse. Okay, in the early in this course of the in this pathological condition, what this traumatic pericarditis. That means if you find out the jugular vein from external also means you can feel that it is very much distended and enlarged. And if you this press and by your hand and this palm and all, then you can feel that some pulsing is going on there in the on this jugular vein. Then there may be congestive heart failure with marked submandibular and brisket edema. That means, when the heart failure, congestive heart failure used to be there. So accumulation of more fluid, dependent fluid, that is associated with the heart failing, the failing heart, and where, there may be accumulation of more this fluid, particularly in the submandibular area or sometimes in the brisket area, leading to edema. So this is also some of the this frequent complication or sequences, what we call sequelae, means these are some consequences due to this traumatic reticulopericarditis. Okay, and penetration through the myocardium usually results in extensive hemorrhage into the pericardial sac, and in such cases, sudden death of the animal will always used to be there. That means if it penetrates the sharp object like nail and all this thing, as I have shown you on one picture, passing through the whole wall of the heart. So in such cases, what happens is that from the heart, because of the severe injury, so extensive hemorrhage means a great loss of this blood may be there, and suddenly means it may lead to sudden the heart failure. So that's why the animal used to die. Okay, so it is one of the most severe condition of the traumatic reticulopericarditis. Then, lastly, diagnosis. How this kind of this traumatic reticuloperitonitis or pericarditis can be diagnosed. So mainly means so far the disease condition and on all the time means one of the most common thing you should remember is that any disease pathological condition when you are asked for the diagnosis and all these things, the most important thing is the history. Means what happened, I mean how it was happened, and the what to say, the history taking, means the animal was showing such kind of this clinical signs and symptoms, and it was, taking such type of this feed, it was fed, or this the animal was roaming here, the this fences or factory places, like sorry, where the the sharp objects were there, and it was mixed up with this, chances of this mix up with the the sharp objects and all these things. So such kind of this history of the animal, it is very much important. That's why history taking, that what we call anamnesis, that is very much important. Okay, and why the this clinical signs and symptoms of the animal. So that will give you a little bit hint that, or it may be the animal maybe have been just made this problem. Okay, then without any accurate history and the other condition has been present for several days and longer, so it will be very much difficult for the proper diagnosis. Means if you are not having proper history of that case of the animal, then means without that history and knowledge, you may find a little and it is difficult to diagnose. And other causes of this peritonitis, particularly perforated abomasal ulcers, which can be difficult to distinguish from traumatic reticuloperitonitis. Means different type of these ulcerations. Okay, abomasal ulcer may also be there, or it may be associated with this kind of this peritonitis. Whether it is due to peritonitis or it is not associated with this peritonitis. So to distinguish this kind of this traumatic reticuloperitonitis is little bit difficult. Okay, then differential diagnosis should include the conditions that, like, when you want to differentiate whether it is due to traumatic reticuloperitonitis or pericarditis or due to some other conditions. So you have to find out so many other these non-specific these clinical signs of the gastrointestinal tract, like indigestion, lymphosarcoma, or intestinal obstruction. So these are also some other pathological conditions in this gastrointestinal tract which may happen. Okay, so that may also give little bit similar type of clinical signs and symptoms. That's why you have to differentiate it whether it is due to indigestion or lymphosarcoma or intestinal obstruction or this kind of this traumatic reticuloperitonitis or traumatic reticulopericarditis. Right. Then next diagnostic technique is, there may be abomasal displacement or volvulus, means of the affected animal. Of course, means these things are, abomasum, the place, anatomical location of the abomasum may be displaced, some right side to and this left, like that. Okay, then volvulus, twisting of this organ, like particularly the stoma or volvular, your abomasum and all these things. So if it is there, so that can be ruled out by simultaneous auscultation and percussion by using some techniques like using telestethoscope and stethoscope and all. Stethoscope and all. Now you can feel that, you can just find out whether that is abomasal displacement or this volvulus of this abomasum and all these things are there or not. And the pleuritis or the pericarditis, so far non-traumatic origin, that means without any injury, like these sharp objects like nail piercing through the diaphragm, injuring the pericardium or the pleura of the lungs and all. So it may have, this inflammatory condition without any injury also. So that can be having little bit similar signs and symptoms. That means in both the cases, pleuritis or pericarditis is there. Whether it is due to trauma or not, without seeing anything, the sign may be similar because the lungs and the heart is the same problem. But you have to differentiate whether it is trauma, injury by this sharp object or not. So that is another important thing. Find out this differentiating point. Then when some laboratory techniques, tests, which may be helpful, but these are not that much important. Okay, but in such cases, you may have, one case that is increased number of these neutrophils, what we call neutrophilia, with a left shift, that is also known as left shift. Okay, and the fibrinogen and the fibrin materials, as in case of these chronic cases. Okay, means there may be fibrin deposits of fibrinous substances on the covering of the heart, what we call pericardium fibrinous pericarditis cases. And there may be changes in the when you use, I mean, some laboratory techniques to, I mean, this see the total plasma protein concentrations. It may be high. Okay, that is another understanding. Then acid-base status and the serum electrolyte levels are also typically normal, but because means it may be normal, but the abomasal and the small intestinal absorption can remain normal. Okay, because of that, I mean the acid-base status and the serum electrolytes may also remain, which is typically normal. However, the mark there may be, I mean the mark increase or and this this decrease of the calcium and this potassium level, hypokalemic, and there may be this hypochloremic metabolic alkalosis, and these are some, I mean this what is it, this imbalances in the this minerals. Okay, I mean this potassium and this chlorine and all the chloride and all these things. Okay, so that may be leading to some alkalosis condition, means more alkalis in the, I mean this system. So that may lead to metabolic alkalosis, and metabolic alkalosis can be created or it may be increased, exaggerated, I mean this exacerbated by treatment by alkalizing agents such as magnesium hydroxide used as laxative. Means if you use or just fed the animal by magnesium hydroxide and all this, so it can be checked or it can be treated those kind of this metabolic alkalosis when the animal is having those this metabolic, I mean this alkalosis problem and all. And the peritoneal fluid analysis can also be very much helpful so far that they are this diagnosis of this traumatic reticuloperitoneal or peritonitis by means which can determine if the peritonitis is present or not. Okay, means by checking the this peritoneal fluid, means if you collect the fluid from the abdominal cavity when the pleuritis and peritonitis is there, so abdominal fluid accumulation excessive, I mean this fluid accumulation used to be there. So such kind of this fluid accumulated in the abdominal cavity, if you analyze, then you can find out whether it is due to peritonitis or not. Okay, then if the nucleated cell count and the protein level returns to normal, so then means it can be, I mean, rule out that means contamination with other organisms are there or not. Okay, so these are some of I mean this, and there are some more. I mean this diagnostic techniques and all, but I will just skip. I mean, I will just want to tell one and this thing that means ultrasonography, the last one. Okay, and or I mean, the presence of these sharp objects like metallic these materials. So sometimes, in some cases, by using this electronic metal detector, which can identify the presence of these metals inside the reticulum, or even, I mean, not only inside the animal, I mean, to detect the presence of this metal, like these nails and all this in wear and all. Sometimes, even if you put some magnets, suppose if you are having the suspicion that the animal is having this problem and all, then you want to check the pit materials and all these things to find out or to check the presence of these metals or wears or these nails in the pit materials and all these things. You can put a magnet, then the magnet will this catch all those and these sharp objects, the metal and these nails or these wears and all these things. That is more, I mean, this management practices not to happen such kind of this thing. But by ultrasonography of the heart and the thorax is one of the most, I mean, this what to say, this technique is you can use for diagnosis, particularly for the pericarditis. Means that is also traumatic reticulopericarditis as well as traumatic reticuloperitonitis. Okay, Then lastly, this treatment part is not needed so far our subject pathology is concerned, but just go through it, means it will be important later. I mean, when you learn the medicine, this subject and all these things, there means you have to add, I mean, the treatment and prevention part and all these things. So far, the any disease or the pathological conditions are concerned. Okay, so I will just skip this treatment part. So lastly, the prevention. Okay, means how and it can be prevented. Means as I have mentioned one thing that I mean by using these magnets and all these things and keeping into the pit materials and to find out the these material things. Okay, so this is one of the most common and very useful. I mean to find out to detect the metals, objects, and all these things. And after that means you can and this what is it, fit the fit materials free from those metals and sharp objects and all. Okay, and this is one of the most useful technique for I mean this detecting or to find out the I mean this sharp objects, particularly of the metals. Okay, then I mean the treatment and all these things as I have given, just go through it. So that's all about this class. Okay, I'll just continue. Means I'm very sorry because taking the class in the mobile means I don't find much and this handy and with this. So I'll just continue the class and in the next I mean about the pathology of this stomach. I mean we'll start about the different this pathological condition starting from the this stomach other than this I mean post stomach like I mean this in ruminants and all these things like I mean this ruminant non-ruminant but so I will just take up those in these classes in the next class. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.